The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Eastworks, a community of makers, artists, restaurants, and services located in the Mill District of East Hampton, where community happens. Learn more at eastworks.com.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, Whoville gets loud next weekend with the return of Queercore Fest. And we'll talk with organizers Ben and Isley about last year's event and what'll make its way to the City Space stage for this year's festivities.
But first, the corn calls for you to go and get lost in it.
And in Sunderland, they've been building a labyrinthine legacy among their ears.
So we head to one of the country's most renowned corn mazes to hear about one farm's 25 years of building bigger and better challenges for the public.
Look how young we look.
Yeah, look at these guys.
Look at those guys.
Those photos up top are actually not the first year, but
Close enough.
This has given me a little preview of what's about to happen to Dave and I.
No, what happens is you do this and then you blink your eyes and it's 26 years later.
Yeah.
Well, 25 for the anniversary thing. But you have to have that 1 year that doesn't count because you haven't made it to one yet.
Yeah.
26 mazes, but the 25th year, right?
No, it's
Or the other way around.
The only way it works is if we say, we're celebrating 25 years of Mike's Maze.
Right.
By looking at the past 25 years. It's our 26th year, this is our 26th maze. Because we started in 2000.
Punchline we had for the 10th anniversary was, we're celebrating our 10th anniversary and it only took us 11 years to do it.
And now you're celebrating your 25th anniversary, and it's only taken you 26 years to do it. But we are at Warner Farm in Sunderland, where Congressman Jim McGovern came on his farm tour last week, celebrating 25 amazing years of a corn maze will open this Friday. And we are with the Mike of Mike's Maze himself, Mike Wisseman, Dave Wisseman, son of Mike Wisseman, husband of current maze maker Jesh Marshwishman, and the original Mike's Maze maker Will Sillen, all joining us to do this retrospective of 25 years of what I personally believe to be the greatest corn maze in the good old US of A.
Actually, Yahoo did say that.
I am also a Yahoo, so I'm in good company.
No argument there.
I like that we're invading your corn camp 2025.
What is corn camp?
I've found a way to sort of merge my career and my interests in with the maze. So Corn Camp is a now annual tradition where I bring other sign painters to Mike's Maze to paint signs for the corn maze. It's a blast.
So your other job is hired hand signs, where you are doing hand-painted signs and gold leafing and incredible work all around the valley and beyond. I think the most recent person that we've profiled that has a Jesh Marshwishman hand-painted sign is Lichter and Levin in Northampton, the new Jewish deli.
Yeah, that was a really fun project.
Yeah.
And I love the pastrami.
But Jess, your career kind of grew out of making the signs at Mike's Maze, right?
In doing the work of putting this year's maze materials together, I sort of realized what a gift it was that Will and Mike actually trusted me to do this project. Maybe particularly Will, who had put so much creative energy into this, and really it had sort of his creative stamp on it. He must have been really burnt out to pass the torch on to somebody who, honestly, looking back, it's almost a little cringy because you think, wow, I was really practicing my art, but it was on an 8-acre scale that everyone got to see. But I think just jumping into the deep end of a project of this scale gave me a lot of confidence and resources, and I was able to just sort of launch into a creative career from there that all sort of grew out of the maze.
Looking at the t-shirt of the 2011 maze, I can see why Will might be burnt out.
That maze is intense.
I've looked at two of the maps so far, and they're both a little insane. In a good way.
You have to know that Will cut them all by hand. So really the big challenge for me is all of a sudden Will says, I'm fried. My well of ideas is dry, which I'm sure wasn't true, but he was fried. It's a lot of work, and he did cut most of them by hand. Anyway, it was a labor of love for Will, which is very, very fortunate. This would not be Mike's Maze without Will Sillen.
We'll talk about the genesis of it. What made you decide we're going to put a corn maze in here, and then how did you team up with Will Sillen?
It's very simple. It was a combination of a farmer, an artist, a friend, and beer.
Where all the best ideas come from.
We had a perfect, synergy, and we were sitting around. My neighbor, Pat Power, who moved away for a while, but has since come back, and he had gone to a maze outside of Boston that had just started. They're still there, Davis Mega Maze now, and had gone with his family and realized that this was, hey, Mike, you got a great spot. You can look down from Sugarloaf. And we were sitting around with our kids playing and drinking beer on his back porch looking out here, and I said, Will, what do you think? And Willie was an adventure of sort, and I was always like restless and wanted to do something else. And so we merged in it. And we remember at the end of the first year, we looked at each other and probably had a toast and said, do you want to do it again next year? Said, some people showed up and we were a little like, oh, well, we're not nothing. And we went on.
As I recall, we're on that porch, and Patrick suggests the idea of the corn maze, and you're like, yeah, just what I need. A bunch of people walking around my farm.
Because Mike's a real people person.
Take a look around. This is cleaned up a little bit. You can imagine the anxiety. The other thing I remember about is at the end of the year, we'd gone through, and that was the Minuteman Maze, and starting from scratch, and our picture got on the cover of the recorder, and we were all excited. And it took a few weeks, but business started picking up, and we were pretty much overwhelmed for a few weekends in October. We thought we looked pretty smart, and we were open, I think it was the last weekend, and we're out there, and it's snowing. We've got all of these maps soaked through. We're soaked. The kids are cold. Nobody's there. And we're like, we look like geniuses until today. And now we look like fools.
So talk about that first design, the Minuteman Maze, and what gave you the idea? Where did that first idea come from?
Well, it came from the fact that the Mint was issuing quarters in honor of each state, and the year 2000 happened to be the year that they put out the Minuteman quarter. So it was right there. It was an easy thing to just take and use for our first maze. It was a 4-acre maze, and
we did use GPS that year.
Yeah. Yep.
A big honking ATV. And then we had to literally, in P-Town, we had to lift it, and the thing was not light. We had to lift it around P-Town. Yeah.
Because you were making the state in corn.
We were cutting the state.
Yeah, you didn't have to go to actual P-Town.
No, but we were, we were making the point of P-Town on the Cape, and we had to.
We got the ATV.
Mike picks up a lot of people in P-Town.
Wow. How much time do we have?
As much as you need, Will.
Edit it down. It's going to be a 30-second show.
All right. So I was in grad school getting a master's degree basically in GPS, spatial data analysis, it sounds better. So I was learning how to do GIS, GPS. And Mike, it was the farm services across the river.
Yeah.
They owed Mike a favor. And so Mike called it in on getting the ATV, and it came with a Trimble that communicates to the satellites, and a laptop on the ATV, and there's a marine deep cell battery that powers all of that stuff. They got to pay tens of thousands of dollars a year to get it so that it puts you within like a few inches of where you are. That's data that the government fuzzes out for everybody else because, you can do bad things with that data.
Yeah.
So we had access to that for that year, and I was in the GIS program at UMass, and we're talking like working in Linux, it wasn't like the way you use computers today. And we had to take the design and put it in one language and then transfer it over to the ATV, and it was a mess. It was a mess. And then when we're out there doing the thing, you're following the crosshair on the computer screen that you can't see because it's out in the middle of the sun, and all of a sudden, like, we're going in a random directions. Well, the deep cell battery had died. It was kind of like crazy, and the next year was like, no, we're not going to do that again.
Will kicked it up the next year, and then we did Mona Lisa, and the rest is history. Yeah.
But you did the Mona Lisa, but now you're not doing it with GPS. You had a different strategy going forward, but still doing all these incredibly detailed and creative designs.
So Mike planted the corn. It's not just corn rows, it's corn rows and corn columns. So there's
a grid. They just got to make a grid. That's when he was cutting it by hand, that was really it. It's not so important now.
So, and then I would do the drawing of for the maze and do it on, Adobe Illustrator and create a grid and map it out like that, and then come out when the corn was planted and put little red flags, every 10 cells or 20 cells or however, and then work around cell by cell, just gridding it up. There
So
was
is
a
it cut
picture.
2 from column A and 3 from row B
Yeah, right.
to
So
make
that-
Mona Lisa smile,
You're
right?
going out there counting, all right, 2 over, 3 up. And
You
then-
sunk my battleship.
Very good. Shh, don't put that on the radio. That's an idea for a game.
2026.
It is an idea for a game.
Yeah, there's one thing. The design was one thing. Will quickly realized that we're sending people in, and we don't do a true. Only King Tut was the only real one way in, one way out. And a game became essential so that people explore the entire field.
We are at Warner Farm in Sunderland, the home of Mike's Maze, which is celebrating 25 years of the maze with 26 different mazes. With the original maze maker, Will Sillen, and the current maze maker, Jess Marsh-Wishman, as well as the Wisseman family, Mike, the eponymous Mike, and Dave, his son, who've been doing this for an awfully long time. The maze that you made, Will, that really stood out the most to me was the Salvador Dali maze, which is incredible. The games that were part of it were surrealistic, including like a forced perspective box. What do you call those things?
Oh, the Ames room. The Ames room. Yes, yes. So I cannot accept credit for any maze games until 2015. Everything prior to that was all from Will and
So,
Will's.
Will, you were making the maze and the games?
Yes.
It's really fun because, you know, like you go in this room with your little kid and you take a picture and your kid looks like they're 8 feet tall and you look like you're 3 feet tall. And it's a really fun way to celebrate the work of Dali. Oh, yeah. And that's the other fun part. Some of these games live on forever. I remember being in Newport, Rhode Island with my well-to-do aunt and uncle saying, oh, would you like to come to this? There's a wonderful corn maze in Newport. You won't believe how great it is. I was like, well, have you seen this? And I slammed down Salvador Dali. And they were like, whoa, they hadn't seen anything like that. It was unbelievable. So kudos to you for me being able to say, like, Western Mass represents above and beyond the cottages of Newport.
And that Dolly maze, we will see it on the internet every year, a couple years. It makes like a round and it becomes viral again. And there's, of course, no credit tied back to Will or Mike's maze, but you just see the image on the internet living on. It's kind of cool.
It really is stunning. It was Dali's face with his crazy eyes and his big mustache, also at a rakish angle to kind of to typify the person that Dali was. But that's the other big thing. Like, we are looking at the corn of this year's maze right now, and you know what it looks like? A cornfield. If we go up to Sugarloaf, which we can see right in the background, and climb all the way up there and look down, still looks like corn. All of this hard work and effort, you need a drone or a helicopter or a plane to really appreciate.
Or a hot air balloon.
Or a hot air balloon. Yeah, that might be the most pleasant way to do it. Is that frustrating for you two artists, Will and Jess, that your work isn't actually seen by most people's human eyes?
It's in their heads. You know, when they come, they've seen the pictures, they've got the map, and they're walking around and they're experiencing it on the ground. I feel like it'd be like if you were an ant crawling around on the surface of a painting, you know. So I think that's all it really takes, you know. Once they can confirm that it is what we're presenting it to be, then you're in it.
There is a sort of magical thing about it where it's like, we know what it looks like. We've gone up either with a drone or in Will's case, he used to charter a plane, even though he was afraid of flying, to get the photo every year. And it was like this harrowing activity. Now we just charge up the drone and zip it up to check on it. Everything about making the maze now is like so much easier.
Oh, it's so much easier.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
my
mean,
God.
25 years, a lot of things have changed in access to technology, even the internet.
The big challenge was when they were transitioning from Will to Jess. Jess was not going to go out there and be a laborer for 2 weeks to a month cutting it by hand.
I had a full-time job.
That's her excuse. So anyway, the big challenge was I happened to be at a conference in Michigan. It was finding somebody that could do this. And GPS had come a long ways in 14, 15 years. But I happened to be at a conference and ran into this guy, Rob Stouffer from Precision Mazes. And I said, Rob, I'm interested in what you do. Look at our website and see if you can recreate the detail that Will does. He got back to me and he said, look at I can do what you guys do. And he has.
I think one of the benefits of doing this retrospective maze is Dave and I are having an opportunity to revisit and see, and for in my case, I wasn't around until 2010-ish.
You married into the maze.
I married into this crazy, mazy family.
I don't think that was her initial goal. I was hoping she'd be in love with my son. Maybe it was
Too
all
bad.
about corn. It was all about corn. I understand that.
I'm right here.
Anyway, I was going to say something sentimental. Like, I think in revisiting the past years, something that's really profound to me is the level of creativity and uniqueness of the original mazes. And not only the designs, but also the games that went into them, the scrappiness of everything. And I think Dave and I arrived at a point when the maze had really grown, and it was sort of becoming this beast. And Dave and I got thrown into the mix, and I think our focus was really on like working with Mike to professionalize the location. Once you start getting a ton of people, the expectations get higher. Looking back at how they used to have the corn cafe, and it was just maybe like a little stand of Mike's homemade brownies, like in the literal cornfield. So Dave and I really had to focus on leveling up. One of my goals going forward is let's start to really put the focus back on being super unique, being super creative.
We did up our game year to year. I mean, we went from the grill and the hockey pucks to an actual kitchen.
Yeah, you have a huge commercial kitchen here now.
Well,
You're
it
making
was-
your own
yeah,
donuts.
we
You
didn't-
look at the menu up there. There's burgers. You now have the market across the
Didn't
street.
happen right away. I can just tell you that. Before we had the big kitchen, and donuts are a big deal in the fall. They're actually year-round, but we make them in the fall. And I was out here, and the donut thing used to be set up right here. And donuts are very, very sensitive to temperature. The success rate of a nice round donut with a hole in the middle was low.
Yeah.
And they turn into bowling balls, and there's a little ramp that they're supposed to fall off, and when they're bowling balls, they just keep rolling back. And my sister's like taking pre-orders. She's taking people's numbers and then calling them out when their order's ready. I was maybe 50% of the time I was making a successful donut. And so the people are lining up, and you'd finally have an order, and people were like fighting for and these were people that did not really need donuts. To be honest.
Nobody needs donuts.
Very true.
That's not true. I could use a donut right now. Anyway, now we have like a heated and air-conditioned kitchen, and
Our donut success rate has vastly improved.
Yeah.
I would say well above 95% of it.
But I mean, donuts are amazing, and the donuts here are great. But as Jess was saying, like the uniqueness of Mike's Maze here in Sunderland does a lot to have to do with the games, like the Ames room that we mentioned, that forced perspective. You've got these awesome slides. You've got these little carts that people run around. You've
Potato can.
a potato cannon where you can launch potatoes out of an air compressor gun, and a camera obscura. Like, where on else can you experience this first form of photography? Anytime we bring up the word camera obscura, I always think, oh, you can go check one out yourself at Warner Farm.
It's still quite obscure, you might say.
Yeah.
That is originally from 2008, the Odyssey Maze. It was the eye of the Cyclops in the Odyssey Maze.
That is so cool.
So you can
that
actually...
was you, Will.
Yeah.
So going back, there are props and different creative elements that have slowly been built up over the years. And part of what's going to be in the maze this year is pulling out a lot of those props, which, like good hoarders that we are, we kept so many of them in the barn, and we're sprucing them up and putting them back out in the maze for people to enjoy and kind of...
throw everything else out. If it doesn't get used this year, it's going.
Then you'll know. It's a good way.
We all know that's a lie.
Got a
Why would you
Marie
say
Kondo,
that?
the maze.
Were there any years that it was hard to find stuff from to put in the maze?
Oh, for sure. Will has been digging out all sorts of old games that he has digitally. A lot of the larger props and things, I feel like that's Jess and I started really leaning into making a lot of very large-scale, larger-than-life props when we started doing this. We still have plenty of those, including a couple of planets from when we did our space maze in 2017. But we're still making sure that every station that's out there has some element that is interesting to go back and look at. Even pulling out some of the games that Will made, the Charles Darwin game, which is it's very complex. It's very interesting. It basically involves everyone classifying various animals that are out there, which is just, it's a wonderfully, delightfully heady game, which personally, as a biology major, I very much appreciated. But the level of thought that went into all of them to make them accessible for everyone.
Yeah, we're looking at the old games.
I think something that sticks out about Will is that he really has a high expectation for our guests. There's no like pandering or like
It's an easy game. Come on.
down. You'll find like a lot of mentions of like brain cases and like all these different genus, and this is just
It's a cladogram of craniates.
As everyone knows.
So the mantra of Will's wife, Liz, and myself was dumb it down.
My response was, I would have a sign up in front, like when you go skiing. So I would have the green circle, the blue square, and the black diamond. And the green circle would say tough, and the blue square would say tougher, and the black diamond would say the toughest game of them all. And I would say, what game do you want to play? And they would all go for the black diamond.
Nice.
Yeah.
looking back, we've been at our best when we didn't dumb it down. And
Yeah.
so I think that's one of the lessons that Dave and I are taking and looking through all this is when people are faced with like this epic game, it kind of exhilarates them because everywhere else you go in the world, you're not expected. Not much is expected of you, you know?
That's what corn mazes are there for, to push you to your limits.
The thing we did learn is you have to have an adult game and you have to also have a kids game.
Yeah.
And we were very much in the early years focused on adults and realizing, well, actually the future, we didn't know that there was going to be a future. The future is that we have to get these kids engaged.
And the crazy thing about being around for our 26th year this year is that some of the people that started coming to Maize as kids have their own children now.
I mean, even you, Dave, were 13 when the first maze happened. You were a baby.
I was 13 when the first maze happened, and I do remember that when I took over making the game from Will, I was given instructions that, the goal was always that not everyone would win a prize pumpkin and would not successfully complete the game. You wanted, I think it was 60% or something like that. You wanted over half, but it wasn't a giveaway.
We're not grading on a curve here at Mike's Maze. What is this, Northampton? Everybody gets a trophy? No.
For me, I really like corn.
What do you like about corn?
It's corn! I love this song. Shout out to the Gregory brothers for auto-tuning all of the best memes.
Indeed.
The Corn Kid.
Oh my God. More at Mike's Maze with 3 Wismans and 1 Cillin and 8 acres of challenging corn as we continue our look at their decades of designs, the importance of agro-tourism to the farm itself, and the transition from the proverbial old guard of ideas to the new team and further reach online.
After which, we'll head to East Hampton to hear more about the 13 bands playing and even more vendors and activities at the second Queer Core Fest.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar in Hatfield, specializing in solar installations, battery storage, and clean energy solutions tailored to the homes and businesses of Western Massachusetts. Northeast-solar.com. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, dedicated to creating access to financial well-being for local people, businesses, and communities. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop.
Speed run through all 25 designs. Tell us what they have been over the last 25 years here at Mike's Maze. You've got it all queued up here on this. Yeah, we can just scroll right through this, right, Jess?
You need to look them up because I can do it from memory.
You can?
It's such a bold statement that I'm not oh, God.
Let's go, Dave Wisman.
2000, Mike's Amazing Massachusetts Minuteman Maze. 2001 is the Mona Lisa. 2002 is Babe Ruth. 2003 is King Tut. 2004 is The Candidates in Corn, which was Mike's Maze book goes political with Bush and Kerry.
It was fun back in politics.
Yes.
Hanging chads. We had hanging chads.
They literally had mudslinging as an activity.
2005 was Bert Einstein or Albert Einstein in his Spiral Galaxy. 2006 was Satchmo or Louis Armstrong. 2007 is Julia Child. 2008 is The Odyssey. 2009 is Darwin, Charles Darwin. 2010 was the Campbell Soup Can Ode to Andy Warhol. 2011 is Noah Webster. 2012 was the Sower's Banquet. 2013 is the Dalai Lama. 2014 is Animal Intelligence. 2015 is Alice in Sunderland. 2016 is the National Parks Maze. 2017 is Greetings from Earth. 2018 was Blackbeard. 2019 was Cornstalk, the Ode to Woodstock. 2020 was our Vote Maze. 2021 was the Imagination Maze. 2022 was the Movie Maze. 23 was Artificial Intelligence. And 24 was Join the Circus.
No notes. Dave Wisman, woo! No wonder you're the game maker.
That's my one flex.
That is amazing. Pun intended. We are at Warner Farm in Sunderland, the home of Mike's Maze, with Mike Wisman, who the maze is named after, his son Dave Wisman, who's the game maker now, Jess Marsh Wisman, who's married to Dave Wisman, who is the maze maker now, and the original maze maker, Will Cillin, celebrating 25 years of mazes here. Will, there was another very local connection and a very difficult maze that honors somebody that we honor on our show every week, Noah Webster and Merriam-Webster's Dictionary in Springfield, and we saw the picture and the detail of that maze.
It's insane.
Yeah, talk about this particular maze.
People love word games. I barely passed English in high school, so
But you have a kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species maze in there, so.
Also, you program in Linux, so.
Yeah, we'll let that
No, I
pass.
didn't program, but I knew how to use it. Anyway, so yeah, the Noah Webster, they had the Merriam-Webster in Springfield, and he was from around here. And I'm a patriot, and what I never understood was that what Noah Webster did was, we're an independent country, we're not England, and all the kids were using English dictionaries. And he said, well, we speak a different version. We speak American English, and we have a bunch of words that they don't have in the English dictionaries, like succotash, and my favorite, surf. And because we love to surf in this country. So that was the idea of that maze, is to get all these original American words and make one of those big word search games out of it. And the portrait of Noah Webster came from the frontispiece of one of his dictionaries. It took a little longer, and I never was going to do it again, and it got blown down by Irene, so...
But it's Noah Webster's face on this grid of hundreds of letters like a regular word search.
Yeah, that itself is a word search. We were looking for words in it on the shirt that's a replication of it.
Yeah, it's hard to play it even when you're just looking at it from a shirt, let alone if you were in the maze having to go through every single letter.
I only had one spelling error. Opossum only has one P.
Yeah.
I put two P's in it.
You down with OPP?
There you go. So we had to fess up to that.
Well, I think that one error will allow it, especially because no one can actually see it with their actual eyes unless they have a drone or a plane, as we mentioned before. Jess Marsh-Wishman, who's taken over, what year did you do your first maze?
2015.
And what was your first maze?
Alice in Sunderland.
Which is another one that's really, really popular, and the play on words is amazing. And one of the only ones that is not strictly just text-based that you do, because you are mostly a text-based artist.
That's true. Yeah, the early mazes that I did, I was sort of continuing in like the Will aesthetic of trying to have caricatures or portraits.
Yeah.
Although Alice was different, we really came out of the gate strong with Alice and had so much fun with that maze. I think there was just so much enthusiasm. I was very fresh. We flipped the maze on its side. That was like a new thing. We went vertical with the design. There was a keyhole, and then there was this imagery with, twisting branches, and the Cheshire Cat's in there, and Alice is in there, and just sort of based off of her Disney-looking version.
Yeah.
That was the 150th anniversary of Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. Everybody loves Alice, right? So it was a good opportunity to get adults and kids and their interpretations of Alice at the maze. So we did incorporate some of that like Disney type looking stuff in the way that they told that story, but we also really wanted to be like, hey, did you know this was actually like literature? This was a book.
I think I did in that game specifically have the poem Jabberwocky in the maze, where people had to attempt to translate a section of it, which is just a poem of gibberish words written by Lewis Carroll.
We also
Opium's a powerful drug.
we leaned into some new directions for the game that year. I think we had like 3 games out in the maze, which was overly ambitious. But that maze, this was like early days of, well, not super early days of Facebook, but it was when Facebook was like a big deal.
Yeah.
Before it just evolved into like political bickering. And you could actually like, post things on there and they'd go viral. So we posted the picture of the maze. And I was happy with how it turned out, but also I was like, I don't know, I don't really have much confidence in my artistic abilities or whatever. Put the picture out, and then overnight it went viral on Facebook. At that time, that meant like 2,000 likes overnight or something like that.
It went big pretty quick, and then I was suddenly getting messages from like my college roommate and friends that it was like on the front page of like Reddit, and it was all over the internet, and we're like, what?
Yeah, and I didn't even know what Reddit was. And then Dave was telling me like, no, this is huge, Jess. Like everybody and their brother, at least in our generation, is looking at your maze on Reddit right now. And that was pretty mind-blowing. We've been chasing that high for a long time.
What are we looking at in the maze in the 25th incarnation of Mike's Maze, Jess, Maze Maker?
We're walking back through Mike's memories.
It's going to be a short path.
Basically, what we're doing is a little bit of what we've done with Hugh here today. We really want to show people the history of the maze, and we've always talked about, we need to make Mike's Museum. And this is Mike's Museum. We're curating Mike's Museum. We're putting it out on the Maize. There's going to be a display for each year, and some of those games and interactive elements that we've stored in the barn are getting dug out and refurbished a little bit and put out in the Maize. But I think it'll be fun for people to see the legacy of Mike's Maze. And then we have a fun little prompt for people to do a little exploring at each site. This is like the impetus to get people to go to each of the 25 stations, which is a lot to ask of people. They can collect a letter at each station, and that will allow them to solve the ultimate motivation for Will and Mike and us in doing the Maze every year, year after year.
I mean, if they made it through the Noah Webster maze, then this is going to be a walk in the
We
park.
lost some people that year.
Mike Wisman, you're really full-time a farmer. Warner Farm is a farm. Congressman McGovern was on the farm tour here last week. How big has the Maze become as part of your agricultural business? We hear about agro-tourism, which, contrary to how it sounds, is not angry tourists. How big is the Maze as part of the overall financial health of the farm?
It certainly helps with the financial health of the farm. It's kind of, we no longer raise too many vegetables in the fall because this has gotten to be such a big deal.
Now you raise donuts.
Well, we raise donuts, and we grow food, we grow fun, and this is the grow fun time of year. People show up and they want to be entertained, and that's a load.
Yeah.
So it's been great that these guys, young people, come along. Will and I are tired. You get people come along with new ideas and sign makers to come in and kick up our signs, and that keeps it fresh. And people do want to show up and see something new all the time, and that's not easy. You got to keep the imagination working, and the games coming out, and the food fresh and good, and something new every year. So that's the challenge.
An early benchmark, when Mike and I did the first year, we did a lot of work. It was new and everything. And we got to the end, and Mike, added it all up and said, well, I could have planted it in sweet corn, picked it and sold it. It would have been a lot less work, but we made a little bit more money than if we did it that. So that was the benchmark. We barely passed that hurdle and went to the next year. Then Mona Lisa became, that's what got us the big attention. We ended up on Ripley's Believe It or Not, and it went on NPR, and that got us over the hump. But that first year, it was touch and go.
How many people come on average now over the course of the year?
Over the course of a full season, I always say we usually get probably around 20,000 people who will come out to the Maze.
That's incredible.
When this season is over, is there going to be a place where people can continue looking at the retrospective of the designs and things for the Maze?
I think that something that I'm just realizing in the design and layout of these annual retrospective posters is that we could almost make a book.
Coffee table book.
It would be self-published.
Well, it's funny because you don't realize you're making a piece of history when you start it. And then you're like, I wish we saved some of these things that we threw out right away, couldn't wait to get rid of them. Congratulations, all of you, the originators of the Maze and the continuers of the Maze, the next generation of the Maze. It really is a spectacular thing, and I do believe, I've never seen a Maze that comes close to it. I look, and I always am so proud to be like, we right here in the Valley have this most incredible corn maze anywhere. So kudos to you all.
They have a Mona Lisa and a Mad Hatter Maze with the Alice in
Indeed, they
Sunderland,
do.
so it was perfect. Thank you, Elton John.
Said no one. Mike's Maze opens to the public for its 25th year and 26th Maze this Friday. You can find more information and pictures of all of the 25 previous mazes at mikesmaze.com.
Also, they've got all sorts of other special nights like the Beer Maze and more that happen as the season rolls on, so keep an eye on their website and Instagram for more updates.
And now we go to get loud and build solidarity with Queer Core Fest in East Hampton. We'll hear from organizers Isley and Ben next.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM. Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. Amid escalating political attacks on queer, trans, BIPOC, and femme lives, Queer Core Fest exists as a bold act of collective resistance and radical community care, uniting music, art, and activism for 2 days of interdependence at City Space in East Hampton.
With the community ethos of a DIY basement punk show, Queercore Fest features your dream lineup of 13 punk and hardcore bands centering BIPOC, queer, trans, gender diverse, and femme artists, and includes tabling by local 2S LGBTQIA+ organizations, a makers market in partnership with yet another queer pop-up market, and food by Rough Chop Food Truck, and more.
The music will be loud. The voices will be proud. And with us to talk about these 2 days of music and more coming to East Hampton are organizers Ben DeLozier and Isley. Thank you so much for coming back to the show. I can't believe it's been a year since we had this conversation. It's flown by.
Yeah, same. Thanks again for having us.
And so it's second annual now because this is the second one. First inaugural, and now this is a thing. 2 years in a row.
Absolutely.
Oh, going back to that last conversation, it was interesting how much hope we had at the time.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So what did you learn from that first year of this festival? How did it go, and what did you want to... Well, no, let's start with that. How did last year's festival go for you?
Yeah, it was, the response was incredible, and I think that was a big part of what we learned, is that the need is real. The need for rallying points, the need for people to feel like there are spaces that gather folks together to nourish our hearts in ways, you know, especially for queer community, for marginalized communities across the board. You know, there's so much out there that is trying to separate and isolate people right now in our world, and I think there was a real sense. People were saying it was so sweet to hear stories as people were walking out, just being like, "I never knew." Like, I mean, it's amazing, you know, because you think this is okay. This is just this event, and then people are like, "I never knew that spaces like this existed. I've never had the opportunity to just move through a space, and everywhere I looked, I felt like these are my people. I feel like who I am is represented in the space," and that was such magic, you know, to really hear how moved people were. So we were absolutely, you know, so clear that we wanted to keep doing that. And having sold out the space last time around already in the first year, we were so excited to expand to 2 days. So, yeah.
Yeah, and echoing a lot of that, I performed last year, I'm performing this year, and as someone performing, the crowd was really excellent, and a lot of people who came to that show, and that was one of their first time seeing that kind of music and being in such an inclusive space, and they've come back to shows since in Western Mass and beyond, and that's been great.
I mean, I've looked at the pictures of last year's festival on your Instagram, and that room is full.
Yeah.
Like, we know from having 413 Day there in the Blue Room at City Space how much capacity that room has, and that room is full of folks just like dancing and really like being involved with each other, which is just beautiful to see.
Yeah, there was a moment. It was definitely the standout moment to me. We brought in a band from Philly called Keonashi, and they have this line in their song that they were teaching to folks before they started the song, and they had everybody chanting it. And it was the line, "My guilt, my fear, my shame, take it all away." And you know, when that moment, it's at the end of the song hit, and they just that line just repeats, and everybody in the room was just jumping and moving, and everybody felt chills. It was incredible. It was like really, I hesitate, like just like a kind of transcendent moment almost.
And we're talking about Queercore Fest, which will return to East Hampton this weekend with organizers Ben DeLozier and Isley. And it is now a 2-day affair because it was so popular last year, I'm imagining. And so more people can come and experience this. Talk about the decision to turn this into a 2-day affair at City Space in East Hampton, Isley.
So yeah, last year we had 7 bands in one night. This year it's 13 bands over 2 nights. It's Friday the 12th. And
including your band, which you mentioned, but we've had you on before.
Yeah.
But Film and Gender, who are our resident go-to DIY punk band for the Fabulous 413.
Yeah. Whoop, whoop. And then we get 8 bands on Saturday night. I'm playing on Friday if you want to come see Film and Gender, but you don't have to. And that gives us the opportunity to bring in obviously more bands, but with that, utilize that to bring in just a wider and as comprehensive, number one, sonically, with the genres we're bringing in. We're having hip hop, screamo, scrams, punk, some grind, some metal, some hardcore. And also just
songwriter even.
Yeah.
Is there really a singer-songwriter in the mix?
Yeah.
Who is that?
Evan Greer.
Yeah.
That's kind of great.
So both like more diversity sonically, but also just in inclusion and who's being represented and having the opportunity to given how successful Queercore Fest year 1 was, Queercore Fest year 2, we confidently can book all these bands. We know people are going to show out, and I think the bands we have this year, mostly new bands. a stellar lineup.
It is a stellar lineup, I would say. And it's only 13 bands, which it seems small for a festival, but small but mighty. Especially considering that punk sets are usually very short.
Yeah, but people are gonna be moving and moshing all night, so you know, 5 bands in one night is can be tiring if you're moving around.
That's fair. I mean, I'm gonna have our engineer play one of our proofs and pudding. Play Etch a Sketch by Pageant.
This is the whole song.
This is the whole song.
Thank you. Good night.
Pageant are very proud to play 17 songs in 15 minutes. That's
There isn't a song on their album that I think is longer than 1 minute and 21 seconds.
right.
music.
right.
That's music.
I think that it's amazing. It's part of what has been the appeal for me, like through my whole life about punk music. It's like it's over when it's over. There's none of this verse, chorus, bridge thing. It's over when it's over.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for that T-shirt to come out. I'll buy it right away. The 17 songs in 15 minutes shirt.
I appreciate the conciseness of them in a way that some of my bandmates don't necessarily. They're like, this should be longer. And I'm like, nope, it's 2 minutes. That's how long it is.
Maybe 2 minutes is all you need.
Sometimes 2 minutes is all you need.
Yes.
Let's talk about more of the bands that are a part of this. At least one more before we take a quick break. I'm going to bring up Soji because Soji, I mean, the lineup is really cool, and I'm always excited when I see people of color doing the genres of music that we aren't expected to make. Yeah. And Soji's a band out of Philly. It is femme-led, it is black-led. They are a lot of fun. Let's hear a little bit of what Soji sounds like. Yeah, they're great. And this is where we have to cut that song because it gets very radio not friendly.
Khalees just went to the RPM heavy music camp out this past weekend, right?
Yes, I did.
So you are, oh, really?
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
guys are all full on ready for hard, heavy music.
For earplugs, lots of earplugs.
Yes. We brought enough to share with people, actually, my partner and I, because
Amazing.
we knew.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back with 2 of the founders of Year 2, the second annual Queer Core Fest, which is coming to City Space in East Hampton this weekend, Ben DeLozier and Isley.
And maybe talk about some of the local bands that you can see there and some of the Makers Market as well. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. We are, for the first time ever, Khalees, broadcasting live from the Peggy and David Starr studios in the NEPM studios here. And our first live guests in these studios are Ben DeLozier and Isley, who are the founders or organizers of Queer Core Fest, which will return to City Space in East Hampton Friday and Saturday. And Isley is from the band Film and Gender, who we've highlighted on this show before and will be performing on Friday night as part of Queer Core Fest.
But the band you're listening to here, you can see on Saturday, I do believe, Told Not to Worry.
They're Friday.
Oh, Friday. They're with you.
Friday headliners.
Awesome.
Tell us a little bit about that band.
Told Not to Worry are really, oh God, there's so much to say. They're a screamo or a sasscore screamo band from Providence.
Pause. A what? Core?
Sasscore.
Tell me about. That's a new genre that I'm not familiar with.
Sasscore, I'm not the best to speak on this, honestly, but it's a subgenre of emo or screamo, and it involves a lot of homoerotic and androgynous styling and song topics is the best way I can describe it, from someone who's a little uneducated about it.
I think you did great.
I think you did great.
That was great.
Yeah, I feel like I understand sasscore a little bit now.
Yeah, and they're largely like they're mostly they're trans-led, and they have 2 vocalists. They have a tambourine player. They're like a 7 or 8 person band depending on the night, and but they make use of all 7 or 8 members so excellently, and they pretty quickly become the screamo band out of the Northeast, I would say.
Interesting. I'm pretty sure the tambourine player is the one that does the sassing.
Yeah.
So much sass.
A lot of it. And we have a lot of, for as far as like Western Mass bands playing, so there's a pretty 50-50 split between Western Mass bands and non-Western Mass bands. So
Yeah, it was something that would impress me about the lineup, actually, like making sure that there was a grounding of bands that are from here and then like people from a little bit further out.
Yeah, I think it's really important that, because, no scene, let alone a smaller scene like Western Mass, has everything to offer. But we're also still, this is a Western Mass-based festival, and we have all bands like Sgraffito Kill and Sapien Joyride and Bubble Scary and I Have No Mouth, who are all performing this year, all met and emerged out of the 5 colleges. And keeping that influence, and that's a lot of the Western Mass scene is birthed in stems from UMass and from Smith College and from Mount Holyoke College, and keeping that there while bringing in some really excellent non-local bands like the aforementioned Don't Have to Worry, AFK, who are a personal favorite of mine. They're a great, excellent live hip-hop band or group from Brooklyn, like live drum kit, live drums, live DJ, vocalist. In my opinion, the best live set you can see in DIY underground music in the Northeast. Soji coming from Philly, is that correct?
Yeah,
and
that's
then
right.
No Manner from the DC area.
Yep.
It's in Pageant are from Eastern Mass and New Hampshire. So trying to get as many people in from all over the place as possible while keeping the root in the 413.
It's a really good spread, I think. And you have a good spread of makers coming to this thing, too.
Yeah.
Talk about Not Another Queer Market being a part of this and the vendors that you bring in.
Yeah, so we've partnered with yet another queer pop-up market. Our good friends J and M, who are organizers there, they've been doing that for, I want to say, about 3 years now. So they do pop-up markets all over the valley, often in the East Hampton, Northampton area. They had an amazing one last November in Eastworks. So we're really lucky to have them as partners. I mean, that's a big part of what we're envisioning in this, is like there are already so many people that are doing such amazing work out there in gathering people together and creating these really special, nourishing communities, affirming communities. And so, how do we work with the folks that are already a part of this? And they are phenomenal human beings. They work with so many amazing artists. They are very much a part of organizing that end of things, which we're grateful for. But we had all kinds of, we had last year we had all kinds of amazing clothing wares with amazing artwork on it, stuff that was patches and sewn on things, and a lot of like block cut printed stuff. We have a vendor that has making all sorts of really cool jewelry and ornamentation out of like animal skulls, and it runs the gamut. And of course, these are all queer artists. So again, really, really centering the creativity in the queer community, and creating that representation when people walk in. I mean, the whole thing is just like, how is this more than just the music? The music's the doorway, but how are we like world building here? Where you walk in, it's almost like a portal into, yes, we get to keep creating these worlds together, and this is a visceral reminder that you feel like in your body when you walk into the space because of what you're surrounded by. And they've been amazing at helping be a big part of that.
In that vein, talk about this as a mutual aid event, because last year and this year you're raising money for a certain cause.
Yeah. So the tagline that we're using this year is loud music for collective liberation. And all of the proceeds of this event, it's a volunteer run event. So once we pay our bands and we pay the venue and those expenses, all the proceeds go to the Palestine Children's Relief Fund. And we are this event in a lot of ways is about how do we have local impact? How do we look at our immediate community here, and like we were saying before, really create an opportunity for a rallying point for people to walk in and feel that nourishment, and at the same time recognize that the liberation work is collective work. This is work that everybody has to be involved in to create that change, and being really clear that we want to make sure that this event is playing into the larger global conversation, both in direct mutual aid as well as continuing to shine a light on this in our community as more and more people are stepping away from it because it is being politicized in ways where we're looking at it and saying, as queer folks, this feels very akin. It's a very different lived experience, obviously, but this is humanity. This is about rallying around people's humanity. It is nothing more than that. As soon as you politicize us and our bodies, that is stripping away that humanity. And so it feels really important to us.
Ben Delosier and Isley are two of the organizers of Queer Core Fest, which returns to City Space in East Hampton this Friday and Saturday. We've only got a few seconds left, really, but you mentioned the feeling people had leaving last year from the first one. The political climate is much different this year. As organizers, do you have a different intent in the organization of it this year than you did last year?
I think when we book this show and the bands that we book and the artists we book, we put in the thought of, hey, do these people do they care about how their music intersects with politics, and are they okay with that and proud of that? And I think the lineups we craft breed the intention of what we were going for, and the collaboration with the Makers Market, plus this being a fundraiser largely for the PCRF.
Yeah.
It's Queer Core Fest 2, the now annual event. It's happening this Friday and Saturday at City Space in East Hampton. And we've been joined by two of the organizers once again, Ben Delosier and Isley. Thank you both so much for coming in.
Yeah.
So grateful.
Thanks for being our first
Appreciate
live
you.
guest in the
Wah-wah.
Peggy and David Star
Let's
Studio.
go.
Yeah.
On the next Fabulous 413, we see academia and agriculture meet in an unlikely location, Amherst College, when we visit Book and Plow Farm.
And word nerd Emily Brewster, resident wordster from Merriam-Webster, will teach us interesting words about different parts of your body. And we promise
None of them are inappropriate.
we're not going to get in trouble. We promise.
We promise this time.
Not again. I'm Monty Belmonte.
I'm Khalees Smith. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413.